Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you around my hometown Trollhättan in Sweden, bicycling on this DYU model T1. It's a foldable e-bike. As you saw, it fitted in the back of my van, which is the purpose with this bike, to have it portable. When I'm on travels, I also commute with it to my job. I'm going to take you around the town to some spots that could be worth visiting, or if you're curious to see how this town looks like where I live. And I'm also going to let you know a little bit more about this bike and how it works. Okay, so what could I say about this DYU model T1 electric bike? To me, it was a great choice for a foldable bike to have in my van and to city biking and so on. Commuting to work works really great as well. I've tested it and I've been riding about 100 kilometers with it so far, slightly more. Always the interesting question with a bike like this, electric bike, what's the range of this bike? According to the specs on these bikes, the range is between 40 to 60 kilometers, depending on how much you use the thumb switch, where you could just throttle the bike without pedaling, around 40 kilometers. And up to 60 kilometers if you are pedaling the bike. And that's for a nominal person, the weight, 75 kilos. I'm not really a nominal person here, so I was really curious how this should affect the range on this bike. And I could say clearly that even if I'm not the nominal weight per spec, maybe I use my leg force a lot more maybe than the nominal person then, because I have been riding with it pedaling at least 2 times, and you see this indicator. You do not really have a bicycle computer on this bike, unfortunately. I would say that's a negative. You have 3 dots where you could see the charge status on the bike, and first ride was about 45 kilometers, and I was still on 2 dots out of 3 of the capacity. And on this run I have been riding about 55 or 56 kilometers, and it's just on the border to go down to the last dot of capacity. And if I should translate the 3 dots, that means I should have like 30% left, but I don't know because I have not flattened out the battery yet on it. So, but that indicates that it has pretty large range if you use your own force and use your leg muscles a lot. The bike is pretty low geared, 7 gears, but pretty low gear. You will find that you will be in the 7th gear 95 or 90% of the time bicycling with this bike. That also means that you have very low gear if you need to on hill climbs and so on, and that's great. It could be a little bit higher geared maybe, but I think it's rather good cadence actually when you ride it on the 7th gear and throttle it out to the 25 kilometers. That is the maximum per spec where the engine will help you. I could easily bicycle this bike pedaling without any help of the electric motor because of the lower gear, and it also runs very smooth and roll out by itself, so to speak. I think it's perfect for city biking, and I could commute to it to work as well, very good, which I have done mostly. So it's a great bike for me in the everyday use. For adventures, of course, there are pretty probably better MTBs and things like that, electric bike, but those are mostly not foldable. I know that DYU have a little bit a tougher version of these foldable bikes, a little bit bigger and so on. What could be said more? I really like that it has disc brakes, both front and rear, as standard. It also have very good fenders that really works in rain. These 20-inch tires are semi-fat, so to speak, so it's a semi-trail bike, but it doesn't have really suspension, and you will feel that. You want a tire review, of course, everyone does that. But we could get back to that. It has a little bit of suspension in the saddle that actually helps a lot to smooth out the worst bumps for your butt, and that's great. It's also standard, at least is what I know, with this rear rack that is really, really handy. I have used it some. I use it with my volley straps here to fasten things. Really great. It's really beefy and sturdy, actually. You have the battery here. So it seems like the capacity of the battery on this bike is it's good for its use, so to say. Up to these 60 kilometers. I actually think I will do more than 60 kilometers, but that's maybe me using a lot of force. The engine is torque sensitive. That means that you will not really get help if you're lazy paddling. You need to use force, and the more force you use, the more help you get from the electric motor. I think that's really good. Not really on and off, so to speak. It gradually increased the power needed from a very a 250 watt engine. That is not a lot of power, and you will feel that you need to use your legs to paddle, but you need perfect help. Really great when you have high winds against you and so on, or hills. It works really great. It also comes with a side stand as standard. It's also lock on the battery. It folds down pretty nice. It's a pretty heavy bike actually. I do not have the specs in kilos here, but it's around 23 kilos net weight. One more thing that I really like is that the lighting is controlled by the switch here. The front light, the rear you have to use manually, turn off and on in 2 modes. One thing that I really like as well is that it's aluminum cast wheels or rims that I really like, because they are very easy to clean compared to spoked wheels. So that's a big plus for me, at least for this kind of bike. It also comes with a much needed reflex all around the bike to be legal in the European Union. It also have a nice support under here when you have folded the bike, so it supports on the wheels and on this rubber support here, so you don't hit the pedals or the front sprocket when you store it folded. You can adjust this saddle very high if you want to, so you could probably like 2 meters high to bicycle this bike. So even if it's foldable, it doesn't feel cramped actually. I have had folded bikes before that had been a little bit more cramped. You cannot adjust the height of the handlebar, just the rotation. I think that is a plus as well, because it's a really great height on it, and you do not have to fiddle with an adjustment of this height when you fold it down. It's fixed, and that's great actually. It gets it quicker to fold it, so to speak. The bike has a rather cool design, I think, in color, as well as other bikes from DYU. One thing with the design though, it's that this bike is pretty hard to lock with a chain to something, instead of just locking it to itself. You could lock it of course around this rear rack and so on, but that could be unbolted. So it's what I found out, it's not really easy to lock this bike. You could lock it around the frame and through the battery loop here, just to protect the battery as well. That's probably the best option. If there had been a through hole in the frame here, that could have been a very good thing to lock this bike to something when you leave it. To speak about the gearing, it's a Shimano 7 gears, and it's really smooth to operate the gearing with the thumb and index finger. Very nice and smooth adjusted from start. You don't have to fiddle with that. When you unbox the bike, you have to install the front wheel, you have to install the handlebar and the saddle, and as well the pedals you have to assemble. I really like the locking function of these pedals compared to others I have had before with foldable pedals. Really smart design that is very secure. The disc brakes are a little bit squeaky when you apply them. The first 50 kilometers, I think there was a little bit sound from them, but that eased up with more kilometers. And the tires. We always like tire reviews, don't we? Well, this is a typical 50-50 tires, guys, and that means that it's actually a typical trail tire. Good for city, good for some trails, and it also have a really nice micro pattern on each of these, knobs. So it's good for rain, what I have felt, and it's also good for asphalt, and it bites good on gravel trails as well, even if the bike is more suitable for city biking or on road biking, so to speak, as well. But I think it's really cool tires that come standard on the bike. I really like that there are like a semi-fat tire. Makes a really very comfortable ride on this bike. So all in all, I really like the bike. I will also put some links below in the information where you could get a discount if you're interested in this bike, and also links where you could buy it in the European shop. And that is all from this review. I really hope you enjoyed the views and also the details of this bike. So I could really recommend this bike if you are in the market of a foldable bike.